Hello, Curious Minds. I'm Miles Maxer, and thank you so much for tuning in to our symposium and my talk specifically. I recently graduated from Montana State University, where I studied environmental science, political science, science communication, and entomology. And I am the founder and director of The Ant Network, which is a science communication organization that uses ants and other arthropods to get people excited about learning about the natural world and about protecting it. So today I'm going to be discussing myrmecology and science communication, basically how ant researchers have communicated their science in the past, and some of the future opportunities that we have to use ants to get people excited about the scientific process. Before I go in depth into the history of myrmecology and science communication, I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page as to what science communication is, or at least what I'm defining it is for this conversation. According to the University of Maryland's Center for Environmental Science, science communication is the successful dissemination of knowledge with a wide range of audiences, including non-scientists. Sometimes in the science communication field, we see a lot of communicating between scientists, and I am specifically excluding that from the conversation today, with the caveat that we are talking about citizen scientists interacting with traditional academic scientists. So when we're communicating science, it's important to establish a baseline and understand what people generally already understand. And in popular culture, ants are generally recognized in our society, but their specific roles in both urban and wild environments remain pretty poorly understood by a lot of the public. Exactly what ants do, particularly in the realm of ecosystem services, is not super well understood. They are an intuitive example of non-human animal sociality, so they're easily anthropomorphized, and that can actually be an asset to science communicators. Although a lot of the time that we spend communicating science around ants is spent trying to dispel some of the anthropomorphic ideas that people have about how ant colonies function. Ants are also generally perceived as omnipresent pests, but they don't seem to garner the same highly negative reactions that some other pest animal species tend to with the public. One of the more traditional avenues to communicating science and scientific concepts has been to write books about them, and sometimes these books are specific for scientists, and sometimes they're made for more broad public consumption. And ants have been pretty well covered in print. They were made mainstream primarily by E.O. Wilson and Bert Holdobler, as well as some others. And they've also been a fairly frequent focus in features of short-form publications in magazines. So when there's pretty interesting research that comes out about ants, oftentimes that will be picked up by magazines like National Geographic. Documentary films are another traditional way in which science has been communicated, and ants have been covered fairly frequently, but not very broadly. So documentaries that are about ants generally are either about myrmecologists, primarily E.O. Wilson, or they are about an ant colony or an ant species, and they go in depth and reveal the inner workings of that ant species. Of course, those films have value, but we're naturally missing many of the 12,000 ant species on Earth, so there's great opportunity to continue to communicate our findings about those ants in a longer documentary format. Now, over at the Ant Network, we believe that ant farms are one of the most valuable ways in which we can provide a unique view into the world of ants. And we can actually put live ants in front of people, and that is incredibly valuable. We can peel back the layers of what people think ants do and show them the inner workings of the colony, and that's pretty special. Ant farms are also accessible to people of all ages, and they are increasingly accessible to people all around the contiguous United States, because ant keepers and other people invested in the hobby have worked with federal regulators to deregulate the interstate transport of complete harvester ant colonies from Pogonomyrmex occidentalis. And this has opened up a lot of new opportunities for us to communicate science with live ant colonies, because the regulations surrounding the transport of live insects can sometimes be very, very strict. And I and the Ant Network definitely advocate for some changes in that atmosphere. Over the past decade, online media about ants has grown substantially, and we've seen a few YouTube channels really stand out, and their focus of ants has been received by millions of viewers and subscribers all around the world. Ants Canada is the foremost one of those, and they currently have 3.8 million subscribers with over 420 million views on their ant-centric YouTube channel. Ants Australia, which is obviously based across the pond, has also seen great success with over 100,000 subscribers and a little over 11 million viewers. And their content tends to be a little bit less clickbaity and a little bit more focused on ant biology and ant keeping tips. The Ant Network, which is the organization I'm speaking from, is also growing fairly quickly given our recent start date, with 3,500 subscribers and 151,000 views worldwide. So we definitely see a demand for ant-related content, and that has been shared outside of just the realm of ant keepers and ant enthusiasts. We've also seen some incredible work from Ant Lab, which is a channel run primarily by Adrian Smith over at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. And before I explain more about the Ant Network, I want to talk more about Ant Lab specifically. So Ant Lab, as I said earlier, is ran by Dr. Adrian Smith and some collaborators over at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences in partnership with North Carolina State University. And their videos are integrated into Dr. Smith's research process, and he has been a major leader in the field of science communication within entomology. And by integrating science communication itself into the research process, he's been seeing great success and a lot of attention online being paid to the content surrounding that research. They've been able to leverage some unique technologies, particularly slow motion cameras, to tell compelling stories about the natural world. So similarly to Ant Lab, the Ant Network is always looking for opportunities to create new ways to communicate science and get people excited about science and ants and learning about the scientific process. And we started out doing K through 12 presentations, in-person classroom presentations. And we've done over 50 of those over the past few years. And we've been working to develop a model for others so that we can teach other ant researchers and ant enthusiasts how to go to schools and to classrooms and to share our passion for ants to help them learn more about the natural world. We've been developing content over the past year for educational use at home and in classrooms, specifically trying to react to the COVID-19 pandemic and give teachers and students who might be learning from home some better resources and ways to learn about ants in their own backyards, particularly in the coming spring when we're still likely to see quite a few students learning from home or at least doing some distance learning. We're also creating a set of products for educational purposes so that we can pair our online media content with some physical products that will enable students to learn even more about ants and ant colonies. We also have been working with a specialist and a great mentor of mine, Mr. Ray Mendez, and he is known for really pioneering insect zoos around the world. And he's been teaching me and our team about how to create museum and zoo exhibits. And we're excited to be expanding our focus in those areas. And we're hopeful to begin putting out some fantastic products pretty soon to help us communicate science using ants in a physical way. So the Ant Network also has a rapidly growing media presence. We've seen actually over 250,000 people engage with our content over the past 2 years. And we've had an excellent reception at startup incubators and pitch competitions. And what we do is we share the ant-related video content that we create with the startup incubators and the audiences and judges at pitch competitions, and we talk to them about how there's a real market need for digestible science-related content. And there are lots of content providers, think of Netflix and Hulu and others, that are constantly on the lookout for high-quality wildlife-related content and science-related content. On Netflix, documentary films was actually their second highest priority in 2019. And it continues to have a great emphasis because that is something that audiences are telling these companies they want to see more of. So the Ant Network is working to put ourselves in a position where we can communicate science using ants and other arthropods and entomology itself and get people excited about learning in a way that's unique, in a way that they've never seen before. And we think that this really is a great opportunity to create new methods to share science, and that our learnings and our findings will be applicable for other organizations and other people interested in communicating science, even outside of entomology. Citizen science is sort of adjacent to science communication, but it's definitely a component, and it is where we have citizens who are interested in contributing to research in meaningful ways, partnering with academic or traditional scientists to gather data. And the School of Ants was a project that was a partnership between the University of Florida and North Carolina State University, and they used this citizen science model to help them map out and better understand urban ant diversity. It also incorporated lesson plans for schools with hands-on activities and an opportunity for those students to contribute to a real scientific project with expected outcomes. It also demonstrated a significant public interest in citizen science and ants, and in our opinion at the Ant Network, it laid the groundwork for future collaborative projects, particularly with ant-keeping enthusiasts who have quite a bit of skills and knowledge surrounding ant biology and can be an asset to researchers. So as you'll hear about throughout the rest of this symposium, ant keeping is a substantial hobby, and we can estimate that there are between 100 and 200,000 ant keepers globally, and that comes from many different sources within the industry and others. And the unique experiences of ant keepers and their unique knowledge of natural history surrounding ants can be an asset for ant researchers, and it's a great collaborative opportunity. Ant keepers tend to have sort of a synthesis, a combination of knowledge across different study areas within myrmecology, and that enables them to do some big picture thinking that even some of the most accomplished myrmecologists might struggle with. And ant keepers have a real readiness to learn and to contribute, and we think there's a great opportunity to work with them in the future, not only to communicate science, but actually to generate real scientific knowledge and outcomes. So in closing, I just wanted to talk about how we should recognize that there is a rich history of ants being used to communicate scientific concepts beyond just the field of myrmecology. Ants are fantastic tools for getting people interested in entomology and interested in how some of the less obvious animals in the world have a huge impact on ecosystems. We also believe that there are quite a few new opportunities that are being created by the internet and by an increasing number of ant-keeping enthusiasts who have real knowledge and a real ability to potentially contribute to the science behind ants. And as scientists are becoming more hands-on communicators, we can recognize that innovation is not only inevitable, but it's happening right now. And we should be actively looking at the models that other people are using and learning from them and having that inform our science communication efforts. Thank you so much for joining me in this presentation. Please take a look at the Ant Network, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube for more ant-related content and documentaries. So thanks so much, and make sure you tune in to the rest of this symposium. Take care and stay safe, everybody.